Na shukran za dhati popote ulipo, ikiwa ni siku ya Jumanne tarehe 18 mwezi Septemba mwaka 2018. Mimi ni Caltun Jama katika kipindi cha NTV Sasa, ambapo hii leo inatarajiwa mswada katika bunge la kitaifa, ambapo kwa sasa tunaungana naye Vincent Odor ambaye ni mwanahabari wetu, yuko katika maeneo jumba la Orange ama ukipenda Orange House, ambapo kwa sasa wabunge wa NASA ama ODM wamekubaliana ama wamependekeza VAT ya asilimia ama wamemunga mkono Rais Uhuru Kenyatta katika pendekezo la asilimia 8 ya ushuru wa VAT. Kwa sasa tunaungana naye Vincent atueleze mengi katika maeneo ya Orange House.
Sadakta, hapo kweli umegonga ndipo, manake mkutano huo ambao ulileta pamoja wabunge wote wa muungano wa NASA umeweza kukamilika tu saa chache au dakika chache kutoka sasa, na ni mkutano ambao ulikuwa ukiongozwa na kinara wa NASA Raila Odinga, na kwa pamoja wameamua kuwa wataweza kuunga mkono mapendekezo ya Rais Uhuru Kenyatta, likiwemo lile la kuweza kupunguza ushuru uliokuwa unatozwa bidhaa za mafuta wa asilimia 16 hadi asilimia 8. Lakini wanasema kwamba wataweza kuunga mapendekezo haya rais kwa msingi wa masharti fulani ambayo lazima serikali iatimize ndipo endelee kuyaunga mkono. Wanasema kwamba endapo serikali haitatimiza masharti yao, basi wataondoa msimamo wao na kuweza kuleta mswada bungeni na kuweza kupendekeza kutolewa kabisa kwa ushuru wowote kutozwa bidhaa za mafuta. Miongoni mapendekezo ambao wametaka serikali ifanye ni kwamba serikali lazima ipunguze gharama ya matumizi katika taasisi zake pamoja na wizara tofauti. Pili, serikali lazima ipunguze au iondoe ari na hamu yake kubwa ya kuweza kuchukua mikopo kutoka mataifa ya kigeni, na pia serikali pia lazima ikabiliane na ufisadi. Pia wanataka kwamba serikali iweze kufanya mageuzi katika mamlaka ya kukusanya mapato nchini KRA, wakisema kwamba maafisa au usimamizi wa KRA umeshindwa kuweza kutimiza majukumu yao ya kuweza kukusanya mapato ya kutosha kutoka kwa ushuru, ili serikali iweze kuziba lile pengo linalosalia katika bajeti yake. Kumbuka kwamba wabunge siku ya Alhamisi wataweza kupiga kura kuweza kuunga mkono au kupinga mapendekezo yaliyowasilishwa na Rais Uhuru Kenyatta kwenye bajeti au kwenye mswada wa bajeti mwaka 2018, na ni kitu ambacho tunasubiri, manake watahitaji angalau wabunge 233 ili kuweza kupinga mapendekezo ya rais au kuunga. Na kumbuka kwamba muungano wa NASA una wabunge 136, huku muungano ule wa Jubilee ukijumuisha pia na vyama shirika vya Jubilee wana wabunge 213. Kwa hivyo hili ni swala la idadi, na tunasubiri Alhamisi kuona iwapo wataweza kupitisha au kupinga. Lakini ukiangalia msimamo huu wa muungano wa NASA ni kana kwamba basi endapo wabunge wote wa NASA wataunga mkono kisha uongezee na wale wabunge wa Jubilee, basi huenda rais akaona mapendekezo yake yameweza kuidhinishwa. Kumbuka ni swala ambalo lilikuwa limezua sana tofauti mkubwa miongoni mwa wabunge, ambao wengine wanapinga hayo mapendekezo na huku wengine wakiunga mkono, manake mageuzi hayo yameongeza gharama ya maisha, yakiwemo gharama au bei ya mafuta pamoja na gharama ya bei za bidhaa za matumizi ya kila siku. Kwa hivyo ni swala ambalo tunasubiri, na Alhamisi tutaweza kujua kati ya mbichi na mbivu. Kwa sasa na kurejesha hadi studioni, nimekuwa kwa Vincent Odor.
Basi shukran sana Vincent Odor kutoka maeneo ya Orange House. Kwa sasa tunaungana naye mwanahabari wetu Ken Mureithi ambaye yuko katika majengo ya bunge, ambapo pendekezo au mapendekezo ya ushuru wa VAT ambao unatarajiwa kujadiliwa hapo baadaye. Kwa sasa tunaungana naye Ken Mureithi.
Na asante sana Caltun Jama ukiwa hapo studio. Tuko hapa katika majengo ya bunge ambapo tunatarajia kwamba mwendo wa saa 8:30 spika wa bunge la kitaifa Justin Muturi ataweza kuisoma taarifa yake Rais Uhuru Kenyatta kuhusiana na mapendekezo yake ya ushuru huu wa asilimia 8 ambayo utatozwa kwa mafuta, na pia ataweza kusoma taarifa yake kwa ujumla kuhusu mapendekezo yake kuhusu baadhi ya vitu ambavyo angetaka wabunge wapate kujadili na kuidhinisha. Ni swala ambalo limengojewa sana kwa hamu na gamu kwani baadhi ya wabunge ambao wamekuwa wakipinga swala hili wamejitokeza kwa wingi, ilhali kuna wale ambao wametoka katika ikulu ya Nairobi wakiongozwa na kinara wa wengi katika bunge la kitaifa Aden Duale, ambaye amesema kwamba wameamua kwa umoja zaidi ya wabunge 181 ambao wameamua kuunga mkono mapendekezo yake Rais Uhuru Kenyatta. Kama alivyosema Vincent Odor dakika moja iliyopita, ni kwamba pia chama cha ODM ambacho ndicho chama cha pili kwa ufuasi hapa bunge la kitaifa kimeamua kuunga mkono mapendekezo yake Rais Uhuru Kenyatta yanayofungamana na masuala hayo ya 8% itakayotozwa kwa bidhaa za mafuta. Ni swala ambalo tunajaribu kulizungumzia sana, lakini baadhi ambao wanaupinga mapendekezo haya wanasisitiza kwamba kutakuwa na kuumia kwa wananchi. Wananchi wataumia sana, kwani 8% itakapopandishwa, basi Mkenya yule wa kawaida ambaye ananunua bidhaa kwa kila siku atapata kuumia, kwani kila atakachonunua kama anakinunua kwa shilingi 10, basi huenda kikapanda kwa shilingi 5, shilingi 4 au shilingi 10 zaidi. Pia ni swala ambalo linapata kujadiliwa zaidi, na baadhi ya wabunge ambao wamekuwa wakipinga swala hili wamekuwa wakisisitiza kwamba wale watu ambao wanawakilisha katika maeneo bunge wamewatuma na wanataka kuangusha mapendekezo haya kutoka kwa rais. Je, swali ambalo linajitokeza hapa ni kwamba wabunge hawa katika bunge hili watapata kumsikiza nani? Watamsikiza Rais Uhuru Kenyatta ambaye ndio kinara wa chama cha Jubilee na naibu wake William Ruto, naye wale wa ODM watamsikiza Raila Odinga na baadhi ya vinara ambao wa vyama tanzu vya muungano wa NASA, au watawasikiza wale watu ambao waliwapa idhini ya kufika hapa bungeni kuwawakilisha? Ni swala tata ambalo linajitokeza kwa sasa. Na je, kutoka leo ambapo mapendekezo haya yatawasilishwa na baada ya Spika wa bunge la kitaifa Justin Muturi kutoa taarifa kutoka kwa Rais Uhuru Kenyatta, basi pale kinara wa wengi ama kiongozi wa wengi katika bunge la kitaifa Aden Duale atawasilisha mapendekezo yale ambayo yamefungamana na taarifa hiyo ambayo itatolewa na Spika Justin Muturi. Kisha wabunge watapatiwa nafasi kutoka leo hadi Alhamisi, pale ambapo watakuwa na fursa ya kupiga kura kielektroniki kuhusiana na swala hili zima, ili tupate kujua ni nani wale ambao watasimama na Wakenya na ni nani wale ambao wataidhinisha mapendekezo ya vinara wao wa miungano ambao hawako hapa bungeni. Ni swala tatu ambalo bado linaendelea kujadiliwa, na wabunge ambao watazungumzia swala hili wanapata kuongezeka. Iwapo watapata wabunge 233 kupinga mapendekezo hayo ya Rais Uhuru Kenyatta, basi mapendekezo hayo yatatupwa nje. Iwapo watakosa, basi mapendekezo ya Rais Uhuru Kenyatta yatapita kwa pamoja na yatapata kuanza kutekelezwa mara moja. Kwako Caltun.
Basi alikuwa ni Ken Muraidhi kutoka majengo ya bunge. Basi tukisalia kuhusu swala zima la VAT ama kupanda kwa bidhaa za mafuta, tunaungana naye Seth Olale ambaye yuko naye katika maeneo ya bunge la Senate. Kwako Seth Olale.
Na asante sana Caltun. Mkuu bunge ikijitayarisha kuanza mjadala huo, Seneti vile kutakuwa na shughuli hii leo. Kumbuka kwamba hii leo ripoti maalum ambayo ilikuwa imezungumzia ama ilikuwa imeangazia suala la ardhi huko Ruaraka ambalo ilikuwa imeleta utata. Ripoti hiyo vile itakuwa inajadiliwa hii leo na Seneti. Hivi sasa tunavyozungumza ni kwamba kuna mkutano maalum wa kamati ya kuratibu shughuli za bunge inakutana hivi sasa. Kumbuka kamati hiyo inaongozwa na mwenyekiti ambaye vile ni Speaker Kenneth Lusaka. Kwa hiyo tutakuwa tunasubiri kwa hamu na gamu kutazama tuone vile maseneti watakuwa wanajadili ripoti hiyo. Kumbuka kwamba ripoti hiyo maalum ambayo ilikuwa imetayarishwa hapo awali na kamati maalum ilikuwa imependekeza kwamba waziri wa usalama Fred Matiang'i vile na katibu katika wizara ya elimu Belio Kipsang wachukuliwe hatua kulingana na jinsi kashfa ya ardhi ya Ruaraka ilivyoelekea. Kumbuka kwamba ililazimu tume ya ardhi NLC kulipa mfanyabiashara Francis Mburu shilingi bilioni 1.5 kwa kile ambacho kilileta utata hapo baada ya kubainika kwamba hapo awali kulikuwa na kamati maalum katika Wizara ya Elimu ambayo ilikuwa imependekeza kwamba NLC ama kamati ama NLC haikufaa kulipa mfanyabiashara huyo pesa hiyo kwa kuwa ardhi hiyo ilikuwa ya raia ama ilikuwa ya umma. Kwa hivyo ni jambo ambalo tutakuwa tunasubiri kwa hamu, na vile vile kumbuka kwamba ripoti hiyo imependekeza kwamba EACC ama idara ya upelelezi DCI na vile vile mkuu wa mashtaka nchini DPP aweze kuanza uchunguzi dhidi ya mwenyekiti wa tume ya ardhi ambaye vile vile aliweza hapo awali kufikishwa mahakamani, Muhammad Swazuri achukuliwe hatua ama uchunguzi ianze dhidi yake na vile vile wasimamizi wengine wakuu katika Wizara ya Ardhi. Kwa hivyo nitakuwa tu nikikuarifu vile ama jinsi wana maseneti watakuwa wanajadili ripoti hiyo hapa katika maeneo ya bunge. Kwako Caltun ukiwa studioni.
Basi shukran za dhati Seth Olale. Kwa sasa tunaenda moja kwa moja katika hospitali ya kina mama kujifungua katika maeneo ya Pumwani, ambapo utata baada ya hapo jana Gavana Sonko aliweza kuzuru maeneo hayo katika ziara ya ghafla na kupata mili ya watoto 12 ambao wampatikana wamefariki na mili yao iliweza kufichwa katika boksi. Basi kwa sasa waziri ambaye anahusika na masuala ya afya nchini Cecil Kariuki amezuru katika maeneo haya na tuweze kumsikiza akitoa taarifa yake.
And we have had a very good meeting with our staff, and I want to reiterate, as you can see here, we have members of the union, that we have had a very good meeting checking on our hospital operations to make sure that Nairobians continue to receive the quality of services. The county attorney, we have the chief officer in charge of health, and my name is Veska Kangogo, the CEC member, acting chief, executive for health. Now before we continue, I would like to state that there are many issues that have been raised from the reports of deaths that have occurred in the hospital, but I want to say largely that the deaths have occurred from the operations that are normal to health. You know that this is a referral maternity hospital, and we want to just give a clear report about the status and the conditions under which those deaths occurred and how we have managed it so far. The other thing I want to highlight is that there is an inquiry that is going on, which is a multi-agency inquiry. We have a DCI taking care of the investigations. We also have our own internal systems of finding out exactly what could have happened. We have the medical board also. We have representatives also from the national government, the Ministry of Health, and that report should be out shortly so that we settle out the challenges that could have occurred and going forward to ensure that we have amicably resorted to measures that are going to make sure that Nairobians get the best service. So with me, I want first of all to give an opportunity to the Chief Officer Health, Mahat Jimale, to give the exact report on the deaths.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, most welcome to Pumwani Hospital, the biggest maternity referral hospital in Eastern Central Africa. First of all, you have to know Pumwani is purely a maternity hospital. Secondly, Pumwani Hospital, just like NH, is a referral hospital for mothers who are pregnant from across Kenya. And when I'm saying Kenya, precisely also in Nairobi, where we have low socioeconomic settings, the urban slums, which form 60% of the Kenyan population, Nairobi population. wanted to demystify some myths that Pumwani Hospital has a number of unaccounted bodies or stillbirths that are not from the hospital, according to the media. The truth of the fact is that out of the 11 bodies that were confirmed yesterday, we can entirely account for each and every child with the tagging and notification of deaths. So clear account of the summary is, out of the 11 deaths that happened between Wednesday to 11th and 17th of September, that is how many days? 6 days. We had 244 deliveries and 11 deaths. And I want to account for the 11 deaths. Out of the 11 deaths, fresh stillbirths, which we say fetus with no signs of life, weighing less than 1,000 kgs, were 1,000 grams, were 4. Fresh stillbirths were 4. And out of the 4, the main reason or the reasons for their death is no heart rate on arrival for 2, and 1 we had advanced labor breech delivery obstruction, and similarly for the 4th one. So those 4 can be accounted for, and the complications and the support given by our top ops guys is available with us. Number 2, out of the 11, 2 were macerated stillbirths, and these 2 stillbirths were weighing 2.2 kg and 3.5 kg respectively. So the main reason for the macerated stillbirth had to do with protracted labor and antepartum hemorrhage. The other 4 were basically neonatal deaths, and out of the 4, the causes were purely number 1, birth asphyxia. Number 2, referrals from health centers like Mukuru, where the kids scored badly on ABGA, and 32 weeks with a child weighing less than 1.7 kgs, and then another child weighing who was 32 weeks, also weighing 1.6 kg. And by the time the child was brought, came with respiratory distress and sepsis. And the last one, I've said 11, I've accounted for 10, was a child who was brought in dead by a Kenyan, so that Pumwani Hospital can safely dispose the child. Complications that arose, and it's very common, and I've said this is a referral hospital, the kind of mothers we get come with a lot of complications. Of common, obstructed labor, sepsis. We have mothers who come with eclampsia or preeclampsia, mothers who come with ruptured uterus, mothers who come with severe sepsis, or obstructed labor, final stage, let's say the 3rd stage, delayed. So the mitigation measures and interventions that are ongoing is we have maternal and neonatal mortality survey done every week. At the Nyayo House, where the headquarters for the department is, we have a review committee that sits once every month. Number 2, at the level of the hospital, headed by the in charge of ops guy, they have a weekly review meeting for neonatal deaths and 48-hour review meeting for maternal deaths. So, in addition, and I'm sure a number of times I've talked about this in a number of forums, one of the interventions which is coming up probably in the next 3 to 5 months is putting up critical care units in this hospital. And specifically, the neonatal ICU and maternal ICU. The space has been provided. Some of the equipment are with us, but we want to have, let's say, a minimum 10-bed ICU for neonatal because of the number of deliveries we are dealing with. And you very well know you cannot compare Pumwani with any other facility in East Africa because we are entirely dealing with maternal cases. And we are dealing with newborns and a number of referrals. So establishment of neonatal ICU and maternal ICU is critical to reducing this mortality rate because you are getting extremely complicated cases. I think I don't want to exhaust a number of issues I wanted to discuss because operational issues will be tackled by our minister. Let me give 1 minute to wacha tumalize. Yeah. Let me give 1 minute to my able pediatrician, who is the acting med sup, to give a brief review or overview of the interventions we've put in Pumwani as a center for excellence in terms of maternity services. Dr. Karibu.
So thank you, Bona CEC, Madam CEC and Chief Officer, and thank you all who have come to be with us this afternoon. Yes, indeed, we have put measures to mitigate against some of these complications. As he has said, we had quite a large number of mothers, and most of them actually do come late, and they come with complications. So when they arrive here, they are actually received by skilled workforce. Our midwives, they are trained in what we call emergency obstetric and neonatal care, which we keep reviewing on quarterly basis to ensure that they are well skilled. We have also taught them on basic neonatal resuscitation, in as much as we are waiting for advanced measures like what our Chief Officer has alluded to. So with this training, we have capacity build. We have done enough capacity building of our staff. Apart from that, we have other low-cost, high-impact interventions we have put in place. You've already been told that 2 of our babies that we lost were because of prematurity. So one of the key interventions we've been carrying out is what we call kangaroo mother care, whereby we utilize the mother to offer the warmth to the baby. And this has really changed the narrative of our statistics here. We have managed even to reduce their time period, hospital stay period, from initially 2 weeks to the current 1 week. The other intervention we've done to take care of our neonates is supporting them respiratory-wise. We are using a mode we call CPAP respiratory intervention, whereby even without ICU or advanced airway support, you can be able to support these children using basic equipment to help them, stabilize their breathing activity. The other thing we have done, as I'm sure you've read in the news, we are in the process of initiating a human milk bank, which will actually be a first for the Republic. And that will go a long way in actually ensuring that our small babies who are vulnerable get enough nutrition.
You have talked about people or rather mothers who come here to deliver being received with great workforce and skilled people, personnel.
Yes.
What's the ratio of the patients to the doctors?
Okay. Currently, we have 5 gynecologists, and we have 12 medical officers, and 3 clinical officers. Of course, that's not an ideal number, but we are making do with it. And every mother who comes actually gets attended to by a midwife and a doctor, a qualified doctor.
What about the number of wards? How many do we have? And currently, we have been told you only have 6 nurses and supposed to be 10. Talk about that kindly, the capacity per shift.
In total, let me put it this way. We have a total of 160 nurses, and they are distributed within the various working stations. We have some in labor ward, maternity theater, and newborn unit. While they are there, they distribute themselves shift-wise. So we will find that where we expect, the shift we expect to have more load, like the long day shift, we have more nurses. So actually they do go up to 10 on good day. But some days, yes, we agree, we have a short of about 2, so we get 2 to 6 nurses a shift. But at this juncture, I'd also want to bring into attention, we have a school of midwifery. So we are also utilizing the students who we are mentoring to actually help us with the workload that we are handling. Sorry?
How many like on
but
a normal day?
On a normal day.
Yes, how many deliveries?
60 to 80. And sometimes it used to go to 100, but because now the county has also capacity built our neighboring health centers, our numbers have slightly gone down, but we do up to 80.
I have a question for each of you, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So as the aerometers now. Could any of these deaths have been prevented if the hospital was better equipped? For you, having explained all the 11 deaths, are you now saying that none of these deaths were suspicious, as the governor said yesterday, and therefore the suspended officials did nothing wrong? And for you, how does a hospital like Pangani not happen? Like Mwani not happen?
I think the three can be handled by one person.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Let's also first of all agree that mungeniletea stool. Okay. This way? Okay. Okay, so let's agree on one thing. The county government is currently undertaking reforms in all the service delivery sectors, and one of it is in health. Why you saw the governor here yesterday is because he was answering to a distress call from one of the patients, and a husband who was reporting about the wife. He has adopted an open door policy, and he responds to issues of the public in the ways that he thinks is the best way to deal with it. And he found it wise to have an impromptu visit, which is also one of the best styles that one can use when you want to find out what is going on in an institution. One of the things that we have to also accept is that, as you have been told, this is a purely maternity hospital. We serve so many people from informal settlements. The kind of population that we receive here, we deliver between 60 to 100 mothers per day. The other issue that you've asked is whether we have a morgue or not. This facility does not have a morgue, but it has a cool storage or room where the conditions can hold bodies for a short period of time. And this is an arrangement that has been on for a very long time. And as we budget in the coming financial year, we have agreed that we will have a cooling facility in this Pumwani hospital that is going to make sure that the preservation of bodies will be on time. Otherwise, we have bodies collected from this hospital every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and taken to city mortuary. Initially, it used to be done on a daily basis, but we work towards at least making sure that we have 100% safe deliveries.
Why is it then? Why is it? Kwa nini mbona ukapatikana huko kwa store? Boxes and then in polythene bags. Then the governor acting surprised because this is not the first time. The first time bodies are stored in boxes. What options are you giving to the county government? You talked about holding, but if at all this was really there, why were these things stored in boxes?
So I want to point out that we have a designated room, and that is where the bodies were found. And we have to make do with the resources that we have to make sure that we package the bodies in a way that they can be transported for suitable storage and disposal in the city mortuary.
So just one question which you did not answer. Could any of these deaths have been prevented if the hospital, as you say, was better equipped?
Now, one thing that we have to agree, none of those deaths occurred out of lack of emergency services. So because as you have heard, they could have been better operational efficiency if some of the doctors that were on call could be reached on time. But from the reports that we have received, the doctor was available, and none of those deaths occurred out of circumstances which could not be managed within the hospital. As you have seen, 4 of them were stillbirths. That means the babies were already lifeless by the time they were being delivered.
So that means what's the status of these suspended officials? They are innocent. Yes.
So on the other issues of staffing and communication from the county, I'm going to give the county secretary to give you the status of the investigations, and I want to promise Nairobians and Kenyans at large that immediately we get the report from the multi-agency, we will comply with the recommendations that will come out of the reports. Because one thing that we have to agree is that let's give also an opportunity for institutions to carry out their mandate. But we cannot sit as management and not act. We must take action, but we also must exercise fair practices that are going to also bring back the confidence of service delivery in Nairobi. So I want to give. So I want to give the CS. Now, the total budget for the healthcare sector for this financial year is 6.7 billion. This includes capital. Remember that we came into place 1 year ago, and there was no adequate financing of our facilities. We really want to thank the Health Committee of the county for allowing us now to expeditiously ensure that we have resources that can be deployed to our facilities. As you have all known, we are now expanding the facility at Mama Lucy. The 72-bed capacity is almost complete, and I'm going to welcome you. It is open. You can go and see. The roofing is on. ICU is expected to be operational in the next close to now 80 days. And we expect that such even emergencies that can be gotten from this facility can be taken care of in other county referral hospitals.
This Jenga Bet. Build your own bet. What's the winning team? Who will...
Tena ndani ya NTV sasa. Awali alikuwa si Cecil Kariuki waziri wa afya, bali ni Veska Kagongo ambaye ni kaimu waziri wa afya katika kaunti ya Nairobi. Basi tumekuandalia taarifa mbalimbali kutoka humu nchini hata katika rubaa za kimataifa, lakini kwa sasa tupate vipasho. Wabunge wakusanyika kuamua hatma ya mswada wa fedha uliopendekeza ushuru wa mafuta. Wabunge wa NASA wafikiana kuunga mkono pendekezo la Rais Uhuru wa VAT kwa mafuta uwe 8%. Maafisa wa kupambana na jinai wanaendelea kuchunguza mauaji ya binti ya hakimu huko Meru. Na dereva wa teksi inayodaiwa kutumika katika mauaji ya mwanafunzi Sharon Otieno anaswa. Kwa haya na mengi zaidi nitakuwa nakuletea hapo baadaye, lakini kwa sasa na kupeleka katika upande wa pili wa studio ambapo kuna jopo nzima ambapo itakuwa inazungumzia swala zima la ushuru wa 16% mpaka 18%. Na kupeleka kwake Dan Mule.
Naam, asante sana Caltun Jama, hakika kwa kitangulizi hicho kutupasha na ujiri kwa kifupi. Tunajua hapo baadaye tutakuwa tukiyapata hayo kwa kina mtazamaji. Hapo awali kidogo pia tulikuwa na picha za moja kwa moja kutoka katika hospitali ya Pumwani wakizungumzia baadhi ya mikakati iliyopo na wakiweka wazi masuala ambayo yanahusiana na tuhuma kwamba wapo watoto 12 ambao walifariki, na mueleza kwa upande wao amesema ni watoto 11, na wakaeleza namna vifo hivyo vilipatikana na miili hiyo ilipopatikana ilipokuwa. Kwa hivyo kaulizwa tutakuwa tukiziangazia katika taarifa zetu za hapo baadaye, lakini kwa sasa katika NTV sasa tunazungumzia masuala kuhusiana na ushuru huo wa VAT, ukipenda ushuru wa ongezeko la thamani wa 16%, na rais akapendekeza 8%, ambayo wabunge wanatarajiwa kufikishiwa yale mawasilisho hii leo, yakiwa ni pamoja na yale mapendekezo ya rais kuhusiana na ni wapi fedha hizo nyingine zitapatikana ili kupunguza ile 16% kutoka 16 hadi 8. Kwa hivyo wageni wangu studioni watakuwa kituelezea kwa kina zaidi tupate kuelewa namna ambavyo tunatarajia hali itakavyokuwa mwendo wa saa 8:30 pale ambapo wabunge watafika bungeni ili kusikia mapendekezo ya rais kuhusiana na mswada huo wa mwaka wa 2018. Kwa hivyo nitatambulisha wageni wangu studioni. Upande wangu wa kulia ni Judy Chebeta ambaye ni mwanasheria, amekita sana mizizi katika masuala ya biashara na uchumi, na vile vile anahudumu katika Chebeta and Munyaka Advocates. Karibu. Na upande wa kushoto yupo Samuel Okumu ambaye ni meneja wa masuala ya county na kodi katika kampuni ya Roadland Partner, pia ni mtaalamu wa masuala ya uchumi na ushuru. Karibu katika studio zetu. Na mwisho ni Profesa Hezron Mogambi ambaye ni mhadhiri katika chuo kikuu cha Kenyatta cha Nairobi. Kondradhi, wajua kuna mengi tu ambayo yanafanyika kule Kenyatta, na vile vile ni mtaalamu wa masuala ya sera na uongozi. Karibuni katika studio tuangazie masuala haya. Na hata kabla ya kuzama kwa kina katika masuala haya ya ushuru wa VAT, pengine Profesa, manake unajihusisha sana na masuala ya uongozi, kwa mtazamo wako kwa kifupi sana, haya masuala ambayo wamezungumzia katika hospitali ya Pumwani, unahisi kwamba wamejiondolea lawama? Yale maelezo yao kuhusiana na yaliyofanyika, unahisi kwamba wamejiondolea lawama ambazo zilikuwa zinawaandama?
Asante sana mwanzo kwa kunikaribisha hapa. Nafikiri lile la muhimu ni kuelewa kwamba kwa maelezo yao kwamba hospitali hii ya Pumwani ina jukumu kando na hospitali nyingine la kutoa huduma ambazo ni za kina mama kuhusiana na watoto, na ifahamike kwamba ninavyofahamu mimi hospitali hile ina jukumu kubwa sana, na jukumu hili ninavyofahamu kulingana na takwimu ambazo ninazo haina au haipewi ufadhili wa kutosha ili kuweza kufanya au kutekeleza majukumu ambayo wamepewa. Pili, hospitali hii haina nafasi au mahali ambapo tunaweza kusema ni mochari, mahali ambapo watoto wakifa ama kina mama kwa bahati mbaya kwa sababu ya shughuli hiyo wakifa miili yao inaweza kuwekwa kwa muda huo unaofaa. Kwa hiyo wanategemea hospitali au mochari ya city mochari ambapo ni mbali. Kwa hiyo inachukua muda. Kwa hivyo ieleweke, na nafikiri wamejaribu kueleza hali iliyopo ni kwamba hili lilitokea kwa sababu kwa siku 2 au 3 miili haikuweza kusafirishwa hadi mahali ambapo kawaida inavyofanya. Kwa hivyo nafikiri zaidi wanapaswa kufanya kama county, serikali ya county Nairobi, ni kueleza zaidi kwa umma yale ambayo yanatokea pale na matatizo ambayo wanayo na changamoto ambazo wanazo katika kutoa huduma zao kwa umma, ili umma uweze kuelewa na ufadhili pia uweze kuwa wa kutosha kutekeleza yale majukumu.
Kwa hivyo unachosema ni kwamba maelezo yao yameweza kuondolea lawama kwa misingi ya hali ilivyo kwa sasa.
Kwa kiwango kikubwa nafikiri wametekeleza jukumu hilo.
Na asante sana. Pia ningependa utuelezee kuhusiana na mswada ambao tunasubiri kusikia, lakini kabla ya hapo, manake ningependa kulia yako swala upande huo wa wanasiasa. Tunaona tayari wanasiasa wamejitokeza. Upande wa Jubilee wanasema kwamba wabunge wamekubaliana watapitisha, upande wa NASA vile vile wanasema hivyo. Ningependa kusikia kauli yako kuhusiana na hilo, lakini kabla ya hapo kwanza tujue, manake Samuel unajihusisha na masuala ya ushuru sana. Utueleze, je, iwapo ili litapitishwa kwamba iwe ni 8% kwamba wakubaliane na mapendekezo ya rais, kutakuwa na tofauti gani ambayo pengine itapatikana kwa wananchi kulingana na hali ilivyo sasa? Kutakuwa na nafuu yoyote ama athari zaidi?
Kwa kweli kitu moja ambacho lazima lijulikane ni kuwa hilo 8% ni nyongeza. Mkumbuke ya kuwa ushuru hiyo haijakuwa ikiwekwa katika bidhaa zile za mafuta, ilikuwa sufuri. Kwa hivyo iwe ni 8 ama 16 ni nyongeza. Na nyongeza yoyote ile katika bidhaa kama za mafuta lazima itaathiri sekta kadha wa kadha, na lazima itamuathiri yule mwananchi wa kawaida, kwa sababu bidhaa zote ambazo zinatumika, ziwe ni za lishe, ziwe ni za katika viwanda, bidhaa yoyote ile lazima kuwe na ile element ya bei ile ya mafuta. Kwa hivyo lazima itaathiri bei ya bidhaa hapa nchini.
Na nilikusudia kwamba kufikia sasa tayari ile 16% imeshaanza kutekelezwa. Nilikusudia tofauti itakuwa vipi hali ilivyo kwa sasa ambapo inatekelezwa na iwapo itabadilishwa ikuwa 8%?
Kitu moja ambacho pia lazima lionekane ni kuwa wakati bidhaa ya bei inapanda, si jambo ambalo litaweza kuonekana labda in the short term, katika mwezi moja hivi ama 2 hivi. Ndio ukiangalia vitu kama usafiri, lazima ile sekta ya matatu ndio wataongeza bei, mtaona imefanyika leo. Lakini kwa mfano ukiangalia viwanda, zile bidhaa ambazo watu wanatumia leo ni vitu ambazo zilitengenezwa labda miezi 2 ama 3 zilizopita ama hata 6 zilizopita. Kwa hivyo bidhaa kama hizo huwezi sema eti utaona bei imepanda leo. Lakini zile ambazo zinatengenezwa leo, ambazo labda ndio zitakuja kutumika miezi 6 ijayo ama 3 ijayo, hapo ndipo mtakuja kuona ile impact ya ushuru hiyo.
Na asante sana. Pia tutakuwa tukirejea kwako kutueleza kumekuwa mapendekezo kutoka kwa watu wengi ambao baadhi sio wataalamu, wakisema pengine ushuru huu haungewekwa kwa mafuta, manake mafuta yanatumika na kila mtu, pengine angewekwa katika bidhaa ambazo ni za burudani na vitu vingine kama vile. Tutarejea kwako kutueleza iwapo hao pengine na manufaa yote. Lakini kwa sasa tukielekea bungeni, Chebet, tunatarajia kwamba wabunge leo watapatiwa mawasilisho mapendekezo ya rais kuhusiana na swala hili, kisha siku ya Alhamisi watapiga kura kwa umwe iwapo watakubalia ile mapendekezo au watatupilia mbali. Iwapo wataamua kwamba tutatupilia mbali haya mapendekezo ya rais, itakuwa vipi? Ule mswada utakuwa ndo mwisho umefika ama utakuwa bado una uhai?
Okay, ni kweli kwamba tulikuwa tumesikia hapo awali kwamba wabunge ni kama wamekubaliana kivyao kwamba ikifika Alhamisi watakubali hayo mapendekezo ya rais na watapitisha wakiongeza hiyo VAT 8%. Lakini ni muhimu kukumbuka kwamba katiba inapatia bunge tuseme powers yenye hata rais mwenyewe hawezi kuziondoa. Kwa hivyo tukisema kwa sasa baada ya wiki 2 inawezekana kwamba hata kama rais amesema kwamba amepeana kwa parliament inaitwa reservations. Kwa hivyo rais amerudisha ile bill akasema reservations yake ameongeza, badala ya kuweka hiyo VAT iwe 16% iwe 8%. Bunge inaweza kutupilia mbali hizo vidokezo ya rais na wapitishe bila shida yoyote baada ya kuzizingatia. Sheria inasema wabunge wanapaswa tu kuzingatia hiyo reservations ya rais. Wanaweza kukubali, hata wanaweza kupitisha iwe na 1% yoyote. Kwa sasa ile vile wakati ule hiyo finance bill ilikuwa presented to the president, ilionekana kwamba bunge ilikuwa imekaa ikapitisha kuondoa hiyo VAT. Kwa sasa tunajua that hiyo VAT 16% ilikuwa sheria kutoka siku ya kwanza ya Septemba. So tunasema baada ijapokuwa rais amerudisha hiyo finance bill akiwa na vidokezo tofauti, tuseme
unajisema kwamba wabunge wana uwezo wa kukubali au pengine kukosa kubali. Je, iwapo hata kubali, iwapo pengine watasema kwamba haya mapendekezo tumeyatupilia mbali, hatuyakubali, na maanisha kwamba ule mswada sasa utafanywa nini? Umeisha hivyo ama utakuwa sheria ama itakuwa vipi?
Iwapo wabunge watakataa, hiyo ndio unauliza?
Naam, iwapo watakosa kukubalia yale mapendekezo ya rais.
Baada ya siku 14, baada ya siku 7 rais itakuwa lazima rais yakubali. Rais asipokubali kutia sahihi hiyo bill, baada ya siku ingine 7 hiyo mswada utakuwa sheria kweli. Lakini hiyo ni baada ya kupitisha kwa mswada na 2/3 ya bunge. Kwa hivyo kwa sasa macho yatakuwa kwa 2/3 ya bunge lote kuona kama
uamuzi watakafanya. Na pengine Chebet pia inaweza kufanyika hivi kwamba wakaamua kwamba ule mswada tulikuwa tumepitisha awali kwamba ile 1% iondolewe kabisa, sio iondolewe bali iahirishwe, isalie kuwa 0%, iahirishwe, ianze kutekelezwa 16% baada ya miaka 2. Iwapo watashikilia pale pale walivyokuwa wamepitisha katika mswada wa kwanza, kisha irudi kwake rais, itakuwa vipi? Pengine iwapo atakosa kutia saini, itarudia tena bungeni.
Unajua kwa sasa hiyo kusema hiyo VAT iwe 16% ilikuwa kwa VAT Act mwaka 2013. Kwa hivyo bila kuahirisha, sheria kwa sasa ni kuna VAT kwa mafuta na asilimia ni 16%. Kwa hivyo bila ilikuwa ni jukumu la wabunge kwa sababu ya kilio ya wananchi, jukumu lao kujaribu labda kuahirisha tena ama kupunguza hiyo tuseme hiyo percentage ya hiyo VAT. Hiyo ndio ilikuwa suluhisho. Wanasiasa na wabunge waliona itakuwa afadhali kwa mwananchi. Kwa hivyo bila kubadilisha sheria kwa sasa vile ilivyopitishwa miaka 5 iliyopita, ni kwamba kuna VAT na kuna VAT hivyo 16%, kuna VAT kwa mafuta.
Lakini swali langu lilikuwa iwapo watasalia na msimamo wao wa mswada wa awali ambao walikuwa wamewasilisha kwa rais, mswada wa fedha, the finance bill, kwamba walikuwa wamewasilisha wakipendekeza isalie kuwa 0% ilivyokuwa kabla ya utekelezaji wa Septemba mosi. Iwapo watashikilia msimamo huo, rais ataweza kufanya nini?
Hataweza kufanya chochote kwa sababu katiba inawapatia wabunge hiyo power ya kutosikiza kile rais amedokeza. Kwa hivyo iwapo tu wabunge watapata hiyo 2/3 majority kwa bunge, wataweza kupitisha ile bill walipatia president, rais aweze kutia sahihi.
Basi kutia saini itakuwa sheria baada ya siku 14.
Itakuwa sheria ndio baada ya wiki 2 itakuwa sheria, kwa sababu sheria inawapatia siku 7 na siku 7 zingine.
Na asante sana. Tumezungumzia sana masuala ya kisheria Profesa, na najua kwamba kuna masuala ya kisiasa hapa pia. Wanasiasa wamezungumza, tumewasikia wale wanasa wanasema ni wanasa, japo watu wamekuwa wakisema kwamba baadhi wakitazama wanaona kwamba wengi ni wa ODM, lakini tuacha wanasema kwamba wataunga mkono. Upande wa Jubilee, Dendwale amezungumza, amesema wabunge 181 walikutana na rais, wamekubaliana kwamba watakubali mapendekezo yake. Kunaweza kuwa mabadiliko kwamba wakaenda wakaangusha yale mapendekezo ama wakatupilia mbali.
Wajua wanasiasa na siasa zao huwezi kuelewa. Lakini kile ninachojua ni kwamba kama ambavyo mwenzangu ameeleza hapo, tatizo kwangu mimi iwapo kutakuwa na wale ambao watapinga litakuwa ni katika asilimia. Kwa sababu lazima tuwe na theluthi 2 za wabunge wote ili kuweza kuangusha mapendekezo ya rais. Kupata theluthi 2 hizo ndizo nafikiri kwangu ndilo tatizo kubwa. Iwapo hawatapata idadi iliyo sawa, basi itamaanisha kwamba mapendekezo ya rais kuhusiana na hayo ndio ambayo itachukuliwa. Nikiangalia taarifa ya wabunge hawa ambao wamesema ni wanasa, wanaonekana wengi ni wa ODM, tunatuachana na siasa za vyama. Na nimepata taarifa hiyo inasema kwamba wabunge hao ama chama cha NASA kimesema kwamba kitaunga mkono msimamo wa rais kwa mwaka mmoja. Baada ya mwaka mmoja wanatarajia mapendekezo ambayo wametoa yatatiliwa maanani na serikali na Rais Uhuru Kenyatta ili kuweza kupunguza bajeti, na hivyo basi kutokuwa na haja ya sheria hiyo ya 16%.
Nadhani hata hayo ni masharti, hata sio mapendekezo, maana yake iwapo
masharti hayo ndio mapendekezo. Masharti hayo wamesema kwamba, kwa mfano wanasema kwamba jinsi serikali inavyotumia hela ni vibaya, kuna uvujaji mwingi, 3 kuna ukopaji mkubwa sana ambao pesa zinazokopwa hazitumii, na vitu vingine vingi sana. Kwa hiyo mimi navyoona ni kwamba lazima mshikamano wa vyama tuzingatie pia. Kutakuwepo na wale wabunge ambao labda watakubaliana kwa sababu ni wabunge wa vyama fulani, lakini ukifikia wakati wa mjadala utakuta kwamba wamebadilisha msimamo wao, kwa sababu baadhi ya mapendekezo yaliyomo hatujayapata yenyewe, tutayapata baadaye, huenda yakawafinya wao. Na tumejua na tunafahamu bunge ilivyo kwamba ikiwa katika masuala yao yale maslahi yao binafsi kidogo wanaegemea upande wao, na kila mtu anavutia.
Huenda ule mfuko wa hazina ya CDF pengine
ukaguswa. Kwa hiyo kutakuwa na mambo kama hayo, lakini tatizo langu kubwa ni kwamba kufikia theluthi 2 ili kupinga ule mswada au mapendekezo ya rais, labda ndilo ambalo litakuwa tatizo.
Na Samuel, sijui mtazamo wako ni upi? Unaona kwamba ile swala la kuahirisha, rais alisema kwamba aliweka kwenye mizani kilio cha Wakenya na pia akaangalia madeni kwamba lazima tuwajibike, tulipe madeni. Unahisi kwamba huku kuahirisha pengine tuseme kwamba baada ya miaka 2 kuna suluhu yoyote?
Hili ni jambo la kiuchumi na lazima pia tuiongelee tukiona wakati rais anasema ya kuwa anahitaji ile pesa, ndio asiende aombe pesa kule nje. Kwanza jambo kuu ni pesa hii kwanza inakuja kufanya nini, na zile mbinu ambazo wameweka kwa sasa itaweza kuwahakikishia Wakenya kuwa hiyo pesa itatumika vile ambavyo anasema. Alafu pia huwezi sahau zile ambazo tunaita dhambi za kale. Kwa mfano hilo jambo la madeni. Haya madeni yamekuwa ya manufaa katika uchumi hii yetu, kwa sababu wakati mtu yeyote, hata binadamu, wakati unaomba pesa, huwa ni jambo la busara uwe unaomba ili kuangazia ile future yako. Kwa mfano wakati umeomba labda urudi shule, ni kwa sababu unajua nitarudi kupata labda ajira, nitapata ajira mzuri ama nitaongezwa mshahara, na hiyo inamaanisha katika siku zijazo nitakuwa na mapato ya kujimudu wakati huo. Kwa hivyo hilo ni swali tunafaa tujiulize saizi. Uchumi hii yetu, hiyo madeni ambayo tumekuwa tunachukua tangu zile enzi za Rais Kibaki, wakati wa Rais Uhuru, uchumi umeimarika kiasi gani? Na pesa hizo Kwa mfano wakati watu wanasema ile pesa ambayo ilitolewa katika SGR itaanza kulipwa mwaka huu, alafu wakati swali inaulizwa hiyo pesa inatoka katika mapato ya hiyo biashara ya SGR au la. Wakati swali hilo linaulizwa, utapata labda waziri anajaribu kutuelezea mambo mawili matatu ambayo hayaambatani na kama hili deni litalipwa na hiyo pesa. Kwa hivyo kiuchumi ni muhimu sana kwanza tuelewe haya tunazita basics. Tuone kama hizi hesabu zetu zitakuja kuingia kweli.
Naam, asante sana. Kwa maana kauli yake inaonyesha kwamba unaweka kwenye mezani, unaona pia kuna maslahi ya wananchi na pia kuna umuhimu wa kulipa ushuru ili kumudu uchumi wetu. Mtazamaji, tuendelea kuangazia masuala kuhusiana na ushuru wa ongezeko la thamani maarufu VAT. Tutakuwa tukirejea baada ya muda usio mrefu kuendelea na mjadala wetu, lakini kwa sasa wabunge wanaendelea kuingia katika bunge la taifa, ambapo muda wote kutoka sasa spika wa bunge hilo Justin Muturi atakuwa akiwasilisha yale mapendekezo kutoka kwake rais, akielezea ni kwa misingi gani ambapo wanahisi kwamba wanafaa kuweka kile kiwango cha 8% cha VAT au ule ushuru wa thamani kwa bidhaa za mafuta, na pia akitoa mapendekezo kuhusiana na mbinu gani nyingine ambazo zinaweza kutumika kuhakikisha kwamba fedha zaidi zinapatikana. Manake walikuwa wameweka ile 16% ya VAT ili kuweza kupata shilingi bilioni 70 kila mwaka. Kwa hivyo wapo ile asilimia itapunguzwa hadi 8%, basi itamaanisha kwamba kile kiwango ambacho kinapatikana kwa mwaka kinapungua. Kwa hivyo lazima rais ametoa mapendekezo namna ambavyo fedha hizo pia zitakuwa zikipatikana. Kwa hivyo ni baadhi ya yale ambayo tunatarajia kwamba Justin Muturi atakuwa akiwasilisha pale bungeni, kueleza mikakati, mipango, sekta zipi ambazo rais amependekeza kwamba pengine zipunguze matumizi au fedha zaidi zipatikane. Kwa hivyo kwa sasa tunaenda mapumzikoni, usiondoke. Tutarejea na mengi zaidi katika NTV sasa, na pia tutakuwa tukikupeleka bungeni moja kwa moja kusikiliza. Profesa Mogambi na vile vile wakili Chebeto angalipo studioni kuendelea kuangazia masuala haya. Pengine Profesa, tukianza na wewe, manake tayari tumeona picha kwamba wabunge wameshaingia bungeni, speaker tayari ameingia Justin Muturi. Wakati wote kutoka sasa tutakuwa tukianza kuangazia kikao hicho moja kwa moja tu, pengine kwa kauli za kumalizia. Kwa mtazamo wako, unaona kwamba wabunge walisubiri sana kupitisha ule mswada, kufanya ile mabadiliko kwamba ile sheria ibadilishwe na ile VAT kwa mafuta rejeshwe kuwa 0 kutoka 16%. Ni nini ambacho pengine kiliwafanya wao kufanya maamuzi dakika za mwisho?
Mwanzo kabisa nafikiri tuna tabia na utamaduni ambao sijui umetoka wapi wa kufanya vitu dakika za mwisho. Pili, hii sheria ni sheria ya bunge. Kwa hivyo mimi ikiwa nina mtu ama taasisi ya kutia lawama, nafikiri lawama hiyo iko bungeni. Manake bunge kazi yake ni kutunga sheria. Na iwapo wametunga sheria, wakati mwingine wametunga sheria ambazo zimepelekwa mahakamani na zikaelezwa kwamba zinakwenda kinyume cha sheria. Hii ni kazi ya bunge kuunda sheria, na iwapo hawawezi kufanya na kuamka na kusema kwamba haya maslahi lazima ya wananchi wetu yatekelezwe hivi na hivi vifuatavyo, mpaka maanake hatutarajii. Kuna baadhi ya watu wanasema kwamba basi sasa sheria zimeanza kutungwa na rais. Wengine wanaanza kusema kwamba sheria zimeanza kutungwa na rais. Lakini iwapo maslahi kama ambavyo ulikuwa umesema hapo awali ya wananchi hayataweza kuangaliwa kwa namna ambayo inaangalia kwamba tuna madeni ya kulipa, tutawezaje kulipa, na wakati huo watu wetu pia wasinaswe sana katika mitego ya kutoweza kujimudu katika maisha ya kawaida.
Profesa, itabidi nimekukatiza manake naona kikao kimeanza moja kwa moja, tukapate kusikiliza naendelea katika majengo ya bunge.
From the leader of the majority party to hold special sittings pursuant the provisions of Standing Order number 29 subsections 2 and 3 of the National Assembly by Gazette Notice number 9380, which was published in the Kenya Gazette of 13 September 2018, I gave notice of this special sitting and that of Thursday 20th September 2018 to the members of the National Assembly. In addition, I also published notices in the local dailies notifying members of the said sittings and the business to be transacted. Accordingly, honorable members, this special sitting is properly convened. Honorable members, you may recall that on August 30th, 2018, the National Assembly passed the Finance Bill 2018. Thereafter, the bill was presented for assent to His Excellency the President in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution and our standing orders. However, His Excellency the President, by way of a memorandum, has since referred the bill back to the National Assembly for reconsideration pursuant to the provisions of Article 115, Clause 1, Paragraph B of the Constitution. His Excellency the President has expressed reservations on A, Clause 2 of the bill on the definition of the term winnings for purposes of taxation, B, Clause 18 of the bill on deferral of the commencement date for the value-added tax on petroleum products, C, Clause 31 of the bill on excise duty proposed to be levied on sugar confectionery and the fees charged for money transfer services, D, amendment to the Betting, Lotteries and Gaming Act on the rates of taxation for betting, gaming, lotteries and prize competitions, E, Clause 68 of the original bill on the proposed contributory scheme to National Housing Development Fund to enable access to affordable housing, F, amendments to Part 7 of the bill relating to the Miscellaneous Fees and Levies Act on the adulteration levy to be charged from kerosene imported to the country for home use. At G, recommendation for consequential amendments to the Appropriations Act 2018 required to bridge the financing gap in accordance with Section 40 subsection 5 of the Public Finance Management Act of 2012. Now, members, I will resume my seat to allow those members to make their way in. Members making their way in, please do so quickly. Those members who are making your way in, please do so quickly. Members, you can register your presence anytime later. That should not take too much of your time. Consequently, the President recommends amendments to the said clauses and the bill. Honourable members, you may recall that Section 41 of the Public Finance Management Act and Standing Order number 245 providing that the finance bill shall be considered and approved not later than 90 days after the passage of the Appropriations Bill. The Appropriations Bill 2018 having been passed on June 26, 2018, that period expires before the ordinary resumption of the House on October 2nd, 2018, thereby necessitating the special sittings that you have been asked to attend this week. Now, members, before I commit the memorandum to the relevant committee for consideration and reporting to the House, I wish to inform the House that my office is in receipt of a letter from the member for Mathare constituency, the Honorable Anthony Tom Oluoch, touching on the memorandum. In his letter, the Honorable Oluoch raises three matters on which he seeks direction before consideration of the memorandum. These are: 1, whether where Parliament cannot raise the 2/3 threshold required under Article 155, Clause 4, Paragraph A of the Constitution, read together with Standing Order number 62 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, the effect of the failure results into the President's reservations becoming law, which in effect makes the President a legislator contrary to the doctrine of separation of powers. 2, whether the reservations of the President, which have not been subjected to public participation in terms of Standing Order number 127, can stand the test of law. And 3, whether the reservations of the President touching on specific parts of the finance bill and not the entire bill are constitutional. Honourable members, you will recall that I did give guidance on a similar query raised in the last Parliament in a communication delivered on July 28, 2015 concerning consideration of presidential memoranda and amendments thereto. In that instance, the then member for Rarienda, the Honourable Nicholas Gumbo, and sought guidance from the Speaker on the following matters relating to presidential referral of bills to Parliament for reconsideration. He had sought, first, whether in expressing his reservations and sending a bill back to Parliament for reconsideration upon refusal to attend under Article 115 of the Constitution, the President can make specific proposals for amendment to the particular bill. 2, whether the specific proposals for amendment made by the President should go through the entire lawmaking process of consideration by the relevant committee, including pre-publication scrutiny, public hearings, first, second, and third readings. 3, whether accepting of the text proposed by the President and which has not been subjected to the ordinary lawmaking process as outlined in B above should require a 2/3 majority. And finally, whether the House would be properly constituted if at the time of putting the question on the President's reservations or recommendations, there are less than 2/3 of all the members present in the House. Honourable members, the summary of my communication then, which is now substantively codified in our Standing Order number 154, was as follows. 1, that in submitting his reservations on a bill to the House, the President is not prohibited from including his preferred text of the particular clause, section, subsection, or paragraph of the bill. 2, that just like amendments to bills, the text proposed by the President on a bill did not be subjected to other stages subjected to a bill upon publication, that is, publication, first reading, second reading, and third reading. 3, that any committee or member of the House is free to propose further amendments to the presidential recommendations, so long as such amendments have the effect of fully accommodating the President's reservations. The voting threshold for the passage of such amendment, or indeed the proposal made by the President, is a simple majority as contemplated in Article 122, Clause 1 of the Constitution. Any other proposed amendment that does not fully accommodate the reservations, or indeed a total override of the President's reservations, including his proposed text, would attract the 2/3 requirement. 4, that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order Number 1, Clause 2, the determination of whether a proposed amendment by a member or a committee to the President's reservations would have the effect of fully accommodating those reservations shall be made by the Speaker on a case-by-case basis. And finally, that the absence of at least 2/3 majority at the time of putting the question does not in any way imply that the House is improperly constituted. Once again, members, and allow the members to make their way in. Make your way in. Make your way in. You can register your presence later. Members making your way in, like Honorable Wanga. The Honorable Wanga, make your way in quickly. I've just allowed you time to come in. And those like a member of Caltun South who are shaking hands, please do it later. Honourable members, we proceed. In that particular communication, I did interrogate at length the issues raised by the Honourable Oluoch with regard to the participation of the President in lawmaking as allowed by Article 115 of the Constitution. In answer to the first issue raised by the Honourable Oluoch, members will note that the 2/3 voting threshold only becomes applicable to the House if it intends to negate or amend the proposed text in respect of the reservations made on the finance bill in a manner that does not fully accommodate the President's reservations. It is not a requirement that affects the quorum of the House at the commencement or consideration of the reservations. In terms of the procedure to be adopted in considering the reservations, the procedures of the House are quite clear. As members are aware, all questions for decision in the House are put in the positive. That is to say, with regard to the President's reservation, the question to be put in the Committee of the Whole House will, for example, be as follows, and I quote, that clause dash of the bill be amended as proposed in the reservations by His Excellency the President, close the quotes. At that point, the provisions of Article 122, Clause 1 of the Constitution requiring a simple majority of members on a vote shall apply. And I put emphasis on the one's simple majority. In terms of procedure, this is exercised by way of collection of votes of ayes and nays as provided for in our Standing Order Number 69 regarding voting in the House. The chairperson of the Committee of the Whole House will thereupon announce the result of the voice vote. It is expected that any member intending to reject, that is to totally oppose, the proposed text of the reservation, or a member intending to amend the clause in a manner that does not fully accommodate the President's reservations, would rise and cause a division as contemplated in Standing Order Number 72 subsection 1, paragraph B, read together with standing order number 72 on electronic voting. If 30 or more members rise to claim a division, the chairperson shall forthwith order that the division bell be rung as usual. If after 10 minutes or such further period as the chair may direct, there are 233 members in the House, being 2/3 of all the members of the National Assembly, the House shall proceed to an electronic vote in order to vote and confirm the claim to negate the recommended text of the reservations or amend the clause in question in a manner that does not fully accommodate the President's reservations. Where there are less than 233 members in the House, despite the ringing of the division bell, the members claiming a division will have failed to garner the numbers required under Article 115, Clause 4, Paragraph A of the Constitution, and therefore uphold the earlier decision made by way of a voice vote. Honourable members, indeed, even our courts have made pronouncements on the questions raised with regard to the participation of the President in the law-making process. This was the case with regard to the passage, referral and assent of the Kenya Information and Communications Amendment Act of 2013, the Public Audit Act of 2015, and the Finance Act of 2017, where the courts in separate suits affirmed the constitutional role of the President as outlined in Article 115 of the Constitution vis-à-vis the role of the House in the consideration of the President's reservations. Honourable members, for the benefit of the House, I will cite some of these cases. With regard to the enactment of the Kenya Information and Communications Amendment Act 2013, it was argued in court that the manner in which the bill was referred back to the National Assembly with recommendations on various clauses amounted to the President assigning himself a legislative role, that role which does not contemplated or provided for in the Constitution, in violation of the doctrine of separation of powers. It was further contended that the referral of the bill to the National Assembly with explicit reservations and suggested alternative clauses and the acceptance of the recommendations by the National Assembly amounted to a usurpation of the legislative authority and a surrender of constitutionally vested power by the National Assembly. And this you'll find in the Nairobi High Court Constitutional Petition number 30 of 2014, which was consolidated with petition number 31 of 2014 and Judicial Review Miscellaneous Application number 30 of 2014. In a decision rendered by a 3-judge bench, the court ruled that the petitioners had assigned a narrow meaning to the term reservations that was not in accord with the Constitution. It was the court's finding that it does not expect the President to simply state, and I quote, "I have reservations about this bill," close the quote. Since without more information in the memorandum, there would be nothing for the legislature to consider, accommodate, or reject. This led to the determination that the President properly exercised his constitutional mandate as is vested in his office under Article 115 of the Constitution. Further, honourable members, with regard to the enactment of the Public Audit Act 2015, the court was faced with the question of whether the President actively participated in the legislative process in the manner he noted his reservations and whether that violated the lawmaking process. And in answer, the court agreed with the decision of the three-judge bench in the Kika case, of 2013, noting that it was unable to find fault with the procedure adopted by the President in making his reservations, which included recommended text that both houses passed when returning it to Parliament. Similarly, honourable members, the court was recently invited to declare that the President, as having overstepped his mandate under Article 115 of the Constitution by referring back the Finance Bill 2017 with reservations, including a recommendation on the reduction of the rate of taxation applicable to betting, lotteries and gaming activities as proposed by the House in its amendments to the Betting, Lotteries and Gaming Act. In affirming the role of the President in the lawmaking process, the court categorically stated, and I quote, "The constitutional power of the President to state what is wrong with the bill can be done without making recommendations or proposals to Parliament to avoid the danger of being perceived to be descending to the legislative arena, which is a function of Parliament. However, to the extent that members of Parliament have the constitutional safeguard and freedom of rejecting the recommendations, I find that it would be unsafe to conclude that they were influenced by the President's proposal, close the quotes. That is in the case of Nairobi High Court, Constitutional Petition number 553 of 2017. Honourable members, from the precedents set by this House and affirmed by the view taken by courts, it is therefore apparent that the claim by the member for Mathare constituency and his apprehension that the consideration of the President's reservation is in effect an unconstitutional fait accompli, which leaves them with no option, is misplaced. Indeed, Article 115 of the Constitution clearly allows the President to participate in the lawmaking process through suggestions made to this House in his reservations. The reservations by the President will be presented as a proposal to the House for agreement, and the House may vote to either include it in the bill, negative it, or amend it, subject to the applicable voting thresholds prescribed under Article 115 of the Constitution. The obligation to raise the voting threshold is left to those wishing to negative the proposed text or amend the text in a manner that does not fully accommodate the President's reservations. With regard to the implication of this higher voting threshold requirement on the legislative authority of Parliament, allow me to quote the findings of the learned judge of the High Court in the case of the Public Audit Act 2015. Quote, the President's reservations were expressed in his memorandum to Parliament in the form of several recommendations and suggestions that Parliament eventually approved and passed without amendments. The drafters of our Constitution must have intended that the President's reservations should almost prevail when they imposed a higher threshold of 2/3 of members in order to reject or amend the reservations, close the quotes. And that was in the High Court petition, Constitutional Petition number 388 of 2016. Honourable members, the second issue raised by the Honourable Luoch relates to the issue of public participation on the President's reservations. On this question, I will reiterate my ruling delivered on July 28, 2015 on the reservations not being subjected to the normal bill procedure under the standing orders, since the President is availing himself to an opportunity similar to that enjoyed by members of this House when proposing amendments during the committee stage. Committee stage amendments are only considered during that stage and are not subjected to other processes that a bill goes through prior to that stage. As a matter of fact, in the case of the Finance Act 2017, the learned judge of the High Court did find that, and I quote, on the alleged non-compliance with the standing orders, the earlier communication from the Speaker of the National Assembly is instructive. It will suffice to state that just like amendments to bills, the text proposed by the President on a bill need not be subjected to other stages subjected to a bill upon publication, that is, publication, first reading, second reading, and third reading. Consequently, I find that there was no breach of the procedural requirements, and that is found in the High Court Constitutional Petition number 353 of 2017. In any event, honourable members, a perusal of the reservations and the various recommendations contained in the memorandum does not reveal any matter not covered either under the bill as published or covered in the totality of the amendments initially proposed on August 29th and 30th, 2018 in the Committee of the Whole House by the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning, the Leader of the Majority Party, the Leader of the Minority Party, the Minority Party Whip, or indeed the other members who had amendments in the order paper during those particular sittings. Indeed, these amendments were said to be a product of public participation. Members, once again, let me allow the members to make their way in. Quickly, please. Please take seats. Take seats. Take seats quickly, since in any event you are coming late. Take seats. Take seats. Take seats, please. In honor of members in the house, you can take your seat and shake hands later. I proceed, honor of members. We will note that the reservations relating to the Betting, Lotteries and Gaming Act with regard to definitions and applicable rates of tax relate to an act that the House sought to amend through the Finance Bill 2018. Further, honor members, the reservations with regard to the value-added tax on petroleum products relate to an amendment made to by this House to the bill moved by the Minority Party Whip, the Honorable Junaid Mohammed. The other reservations with regard to the amendments to the Excise Duty Act and the Employment Act on the proposed contributions to the National Housing Development Fund relate to amendments made by this House to provisions that were originally in the bill. Indeed, the reservation and recommendation on the National Housing Fund is nearly word-for-word similar to the amendment proposed by the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning and the leader of the majority party during the committee stage of the bill, which was said to have been initiated as a result of public participation. The query with regard to the need for public participation is therefore disingenuous and unnecessary. Honourable members, the Honourable Oluoch raised a third issue of whether the President's reservation with regard to the Finance Bill 2018 amounts to line item veto, and if it does, whether the same is constitutional. In parliamentary parlance, a veto is a constitutional right to reject a decision or proposal made by a lawmaking body. A line item veto, on the other hand, is a rejection of a specific portion of a legislation passed by the legislature. In classical use, a president exercises a right to reject a legislation forwarded for assent in totality. In the event a legislature proposes to proceed and pass the legislation without reference to the president's objections, it would ordinarily require a supermajority to do so. This is the case in the United States of America as dictated by its constitution, while the president is only mandated to reject a bill and refer it back with a list of objections. The Congress thereafter can only pass the bill by a supermajority in both houses. The wording of their Section 7 of Article 1 of their Constitution on the consideration, passage and assent of legislation only contemplates the classic use of a veto. Hence, the President is not at liberty to reject portions of a legislation passed by Congress. This practice is well explained by William McKay and Charles Johnson in their book titled Parliament and Congress, Representation and Scrutiny in the 21st Century. Indeed, far from the claim by the member for Mathare, the practice in Kenya is, however, quite different, as evidenced by Article 115 of the Constitution. And for those who mind the history of this article, Section 46 of the old Constitution of this country would be relevant. Both provisions do allow a president to refer a bill back to the legislature with reservations. Similarly, both provisions allow the legislature to amend a bill to accommodate the reservations of the president, therefore leading to the conclusion that a president may refer a bill back with reservation or no or specific clauses of a bill. The only departure between the two provisions, as I noted in the communication delivered on July 28, 2015, was that whereas Section 46 of the repealed Constitution contained express provisions empowering the President to return a bill back to the National Assembly by submitting a memorandum to the Speaker, indicating the specific provisions of the bill which in his opinion should be reconsidered by the National Assembly, including his recommendation for amendments. Article 115 of our current Constitution omits this express requirement for submission of recommendations. In that communication, I did indeed direct that despite the lack of an express provision in Article 115 requiring the President to submit his recommendations on a bill, the Constitution does not prohibit this practice either. In line with the cardinal principle of interpretation of law that whatever is not prohibited by the Constitution or any law is presumed to be allowed. Honourable members, the President is therefore within his constitutional right to present a memorandum touching on specific clauses of the Finance Bill 2018. Indeed, Article 115 gives the House an option to either amending the bill to agree with the President or disregarding the President's wishes by raising a 2/3 majority. Honourable members, the memorandum from the President concludes by requesting the House to consider amendments to the Appropriations Act 2018 in light of the passage of the proposals in the Finance Bill 2018, which create a financing gap. This does not constitute a new proposal for introduction into the Finance Bill 2018. As members are fully aware, Section 40, subsection 5 of the Public Finance Management Act of 2012 requires the House, in adopting the Finance Bill, to ensure that the revenue-raising measures passed are consistent with the approved fiscal framework and the Division of Revenue Act, including consideration of the impact of proposed changes on the composition of the tax revenue, among other principles. The President notes that in the event the House agrees with the measures outlined in the memorandum, the financing gap will remain in the region of 55 billion Kenya shillings. Consequently, the House shall have to amend the Appropriations Act 2018 as required by law to eliminate this gap or such other amount as may result from any amendment made to the Finance Bill 2018. That process will be referred to the Budget and Appropriations Committee as contemplated by the Public Finance Management Act 2012 and our standing orders. As I conclude, honourable members, I thank the member for Mathare constituency for bringing forth these issues that have necessitated me to consolidate the message from the President with this communication as a guide to the House. The President's memorandum stands now committed to the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning for consideration. The committee should table its report in the morning of Thursday, 20th September 2018. I wish to reiterate to the House that the Senate committee that only the clauses of the bill that have reservations ought to be considered. The committee may, subject to the new Standing Order 195 relating to attendance by non-members of select committees, admit the member for Mathare to participate and or present any views he has on the memorandum, together with any other member or other persons that may show interest in the process. I also direct the clerk to now circulate the memorandum from His Excellency the President to all members so that you can familiarize yourselves with its contents. The clerk is further directed to avail this communication to members together with my communication of 28th July 2015 regarding consideration and scope of presidential reservations. Indeed, honourable members, my many rulings on these matters have been codified into a small book. I thank you, honourable members. Member Voyata, we are not yet through. Member Voyata, if you could just, you just came in a while ago. You got thirsty so fast. Honourable members, pursuant to provisions of Standing Order number 41, I wish to report to the House that I have received a message from the Senate regarding its decision on the approval of a member for appointment to the Parliamentary Service Commission. Honourable members, the message reads in part, and I quote, "In accordance with the provisions of Article 127, Clause 2, Paragraph D of the Constitution, By a resolution passed on Thursday, September 13, 2018, the Senate also approved the appointment of the Honorable Samuel Kiprono Chepkonga as a member of the Parliamentary Service Commission. Honour members, you will recall that this House, by a resolution passed on Thursday, August 2nd, 2018, the National Assembly approved the said member for appointment to the Parliamentary Service Commission. This therefore concludes the bicameral approval of the appointment process and paves the way for the Commissioner to take oath of office as required under Article 74 of the Constitution before he commences his duties. And the Honorable Chepkonga is therefore invited, if he is available, to appear before the chairperson of the Commission anytime from tomorrow morning. I thank you now, members. Next order.
Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Leader majority.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, September 18, 2018. 1. 2018-2019 Supplementary Estimates 1, Program-Based Budget of the National Government of Kenya for the year ending 30th June 2019. And 2. Statement of the Financial Year 2018-2019 Supplementary Estimate number 1 by the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Yes, Member Mokikuyu, what's your point of order?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Really not a point of order, Speaker, but a point of information, just to appeal to members of the Budget and Appropriations Committee in view of the paper just laid by the Leader of Majority on the Supplementary Appropriations estimates, that we have a meeting tomorrow morning and the whole day, and I also wish to take this opportunity, Honorable Speaker, to ask all chairs of committees to be able to join us tomorrow. We will make it known through the liaison committee the venue of the meeting, so that we are able to deliberate on the estimates and be able to have a report ready by Thursday morning. Of course, all chairs of committees except the 2 oversight committees and the Special Funds Committee. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Well, the chair of Budget and Appropriations Committee jumped the gun, but he is quite in order. The papers laid by the Leader of Majority Party stand committed, as I indicated in my communication to the Budget and Appropriations Committee, for appropriate consideration. And as you invite chairs of other committees to your meeting, I think I would also want to direct members of the Parliamentary Service Committee and the clerks of the Houses of Parliament, more particularly the chair of the Finance Committee of the Commission, the Honorable Kainan, to also appear before your committee. The Honorable Kainan is the chair of the Finance Committee of the Parliamentary Service Commission. So, because I'm sure the meeting may have a few issues that you may wish to have considered or looked into. Yeah, the Honorable Kainan is present. Yes, and he can carry with him as many other commissioners as possible. It's only the chairperson who will not be present.
We will do that, Chairman, and our position is already known. Nothing will be touched on the PSC proposals contained.
Now, the Honorable Kainan has made this. Honorable Ishongwa.
Honorable Speaker, I think in your magnanimity you have indicated that the chair of the Finance Committee of the Parliamentary Service Commission will appear together with other commissioners before the committee. And indeed, Honorable Speaker, I want to confirm that indeed a letter should be on its way, inviting members of the Parliamentary Service Commission and members of the Judicial Service Commission into the meeting tomorrow morning. However, Mr. Speaker, when you gave the Honorable Kenan that opportunity, he has said something that is very telling, that Chair, when I said chair, all chairs, it meant even the chair of the CDF committee is also invited. That is why we invited all chairs of committees, except the oversight committees. Honorable Chair, what I had a problem, Mr. Speaker, with is the assertion by Honorable Kenan, who purports to be now writing the report on behalf of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, indicating that nothing will be touched.
Honorable Ijongwa, you are now out of order because we are discussing nothing. Honorable members, I don't know who is the vice chair of the CDF committee. Yes, as Honorable Omar. I know the chair is indisposed and out of the country. Honorable Wahungu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I was raising the matter on the chair of the CDF, unlike enough the chairman had raised. Because looking at that memoranda, you find that CDF is under threat. So it's important that the chair of CDF should be there, and even any other friend of the committee should also be there to appear before the budget committee so that we can consider it accordingly and act appropriately. I thank you.
Now, you know, no members, there is the invitation is from the chair of budget committee. I say the member for Homa Bay Town.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for reconvening the House during recess. Mr. Speaker, the matters that we are going to transact between today and on Thursday would be matters of grave national importance, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, would I be right to seek your indulgence as the chair to reorder the order paper so that we can deal with the matter of VAT straight away? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Which order paper? Which order paper?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, there is only one circulated to us relating to this special sitting and it includes the matters gazetted for today and Thursday. I was just requesting, Mr. Speaker, that because the main issue as to why the people we represent believe we are here concerns VAT, and it is a matter over which I know there is a conscious decision by members. It's a matter we can vote straight away so that we deal with the other matters. I beg you, Mr. Speaker.
You know, honor members, and like all of you, the Constitution made it very clear that the Speaker shall have no vote. So, honor members, the memorandum has been referred to the relevant committee of the House, namely Finance and National Planning, who will then bring a report. And if we took the route that the Honorable Kaluma is suggesting, we will be obviously in a breach of our standing orders and other traditions. So, Honorable Kaluma, I can see you are anxious to dispose of that matter. But let's wait for the time, which is Thursday morning. Yes. I can see the member for South Imenti.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, I listened to the Chair and Budget Committee severally excluding the three important committees of this House, Honorable Speaker, especially in the anti-vice, especially in the appropriations budget making process. Mr. Speaker, the Public Accounts Committee, Public Investments Committee, and the Special Funds Committee, we are the watchdog. I know who the thieves are in this country, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, it is important even when he is doing his work to really consult these important committees, because you know where resources are wasted, where resources are plundered, who steal the public resources. Therefore, I think the chairman budget committee should be a friend of these three watchdog committees, and he should not see these committees as enemies of this House or of the process that is done in this House, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, it is important, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, my good friend, not to be intimidated by these three committees, because like now, if you tell me where to cut, in special funds, Mr. Speaker, we have realized that all the funds that we have in the ministries, all these funds go to waste. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, if you ask me today where we can cut budget and where we can get money to fill the budget hole, I can tell you even at 1 o'clock when I'm asleep, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, Mr. Chairman should really be a friend of our committees, because we can really make his work easier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I can see my colleagues also agitated by his statement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Leader Majority.
Speaker, this House now is close to over a year. And I want to confirm that this funds committee, the Public Accounts Committee, the Public Investment, and the Special Funds are yet to table a report here. And based on that report, then we can use it as a record of the House to where to cut expenditure and where there is wastage. And this, I think, Mr. Speaker, is a wake-up call. Honorable Wandai is doing a very good work, and Honorable Nasir, and Honorable Kathuri. But you know, interrogating people in room 7 and 9 is not the end of the business. What is the end of the business is when a report is tabled and is approved, and then other agencies can use to bring those people to book. Yeah. To Speaker, the second thing, you heard Honorable Chris Wamalwa saying CDF is in the memoranda. No. Speaker, this is a house of facts. Speaker, he said, I can even go to the answer. He said that, maybe on a slip of the tongue. What CDF will be found, if at all, in the estimates, supplementary estimates that I have tabled. This memoranda, Mr. Speaker, has about 5 items which the House needs to agree with in one way or the other. Mr. Speaker, the roadmap is set. And Kenya is a parliamentary democracy. So, and you know, when I say Kenya is a parliamentary democracy, there are parties that form parliamentary parties. So, Mr. Speaker, I really want Honorable Wandai and Honorable Nasir. They are doing very good work. And Honorable Kathuri, it may be when we come back in October, and the House Business Committee that you chair will give it a priority, so that we know in record at the plenary where wastage in government is happening. And that will not help the people of Kenya alone, it will even help the President in making sure certain people are also relieved of their duties. But now, 1 year down the line, we don't have a report.
No, not a point. You know, points of order should not be confused with points of arguments. Honorable Kajwang, what is your... Mr. Speaker, please. Protect me.
I can speak on your behalf. Come here. Mr. Speaker. Here.
Mr. Speaker, sir, protect me from my minority leader. Mr. Speaker, sir, as you see, I am sitting next to him. My minority leader is threatening me with the consequences of participating in this House pursuant to Article 117, which states that this House, there is freedom of speech in this House, and everybody will follow its conscience. and that this is a house of debate. Mr. Speaker, sir, he is talking about issues which are outside of this parliament. And Mr. Speaker, sir, it is the same thing which the leader of majority, in a way in which he is trying to cast aspersions by telling us about this parliamentary democracy, telling us about some things outside the house that we do not know. Are they in order, Mr. Speaker, that these people should intimidate us when we know where to vote and where we know where the country is going, where we know our people?
Honour members, the chair will obviously not be able to rule on whether whether the leader of minority party is in order or not, arising from a complaint that whose genesis is maybe some whisper between the Honorable TJ Kajwang and himself. Now, if he whispered something to you, because you said you are sitting very close to him, which indeed I can see, but I'm unlikely to know, and both yourself and the little minority party have been smiling at one another. How am I likely to interpret that that is a threat? I can only imagine that you've been exchanging matters to do with the great county of Homabay. Honorable Boko Milemba.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for the communication and the fact that we have had to have this special convening of the House. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Speaker, the matter that we shall be looking at, especially the matter which one honorable member raised, is the issue of the tax. And because that's a matter that really concerns Kenyans, it was my plea that I beg your direction that when it comes to voting of that particular matter, because it's raising a question of the integrity of the House, the independence of the House, the strength of the House moving forward, that you allow that when that voting be done, it's done publicly so that the Kenyans can know who will be for the Kenyans and who will be not for the Kenyans. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honourable members, my communication was very clear about how that is to happen. I'm unlikely to change merely because there is excessive foot thumping. That is not the way we make decisions here. So we will go by the communication, which indeed is amplifying what is in the standing orders. And there should be no difficulties. Honorable Nasir, you want to say something?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. With due respect, because our committees that we chair have been mentioned, and with due respect, Mr. Speaker, when we're told that 1 year down the line, we as a committee have only been constituted for hardly about 6 months. And the level of corruption that has been there in these state corporations have been so intricate and complex, Mr. Speaker, and I'm glad that my brothers, Honorable Duale and the Chair of Budget are in agreement that people need to fry and people need to burn to set an example that corruption is not allowed. So when we bring these reports, Mr. Speaker, to this House, we are hoping the same enthusiasm so that we have zero levels of corruption in this country, we have zero tolerance on public misuse, and then eventually we'll have zero taxation on fuel. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Well, now there's nothing really to this. You know, I can see Honorable Wandai wants to say something. You know, it is not. There's no debate. Honorable members, there is no debate. The matter will come on Thursday. You will then debate at that time. But for now, there is nothing to debate. There is even nothing out of order. No. It is not just for people to speak for the sake of speaking. This is not the way it is done. So, Honorable Wandai, don't even raise your finger the way you are doing. It is not going to help because there is nothing before the House. The memorandum has been committed. The supplementary estimates have also been committed. So they really have nothing. We better move to the next order. Next order.
Order number 8, the Urban Areas and Cities Amendment Bills, Senate Bill number 4 of 2017, second reading.
Leader of Majority.
Speaker, because you have committed the memoranda to the Finance Committee and you have also committed the bulky supplementary appropriation estimates to the Budget Committee, in order to give our members time to go and read and internalize that, I will ask that we defer order number 8, number 9, 10 and 11, Mr. Speaker. I've asked you to defer order number 8, 9 and 10 and 11, Speaker.
Very well, order members, order members, order now, order members, order members.
Where?
Order members, order members. Order members. I'm sure many of you may not have heard what the Leader Majority has said. He has asked for the deferment of the businesses appearing as orders number 8, 9, 10 and 11, so that to enable members enough opportunity to go and look at the memorandum as well as participate tomorrow effectively in the business before the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Therefore, that means, honourable members, there is no business. The hour, honourable members, the hour being 34 minutes past 3 p.m., this House stands adjourned until Thursday, 20th of September at 9:30 a.m.